Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first Ashida Manufacturing Challenges webinar. And today we'll actually be focusing on productivity in the confectionery sector. As we go through today's content, if you have any questions, if you'd like to enter those in the appropriate location on the webinar screen, what we're going to do is we're going to reserve 15 minutes at the end of the session where we can actually channel those questions to today's presenters and hopefully provide the answers that you're looking for. If we have a significant amount of questions, we will endeavour to answer all of those either through the web platform or through email directly after the session. What we're actually going to do is we're going to provide a very quick overview of Ashida and then get into the key content. Before we do that, I'd like just to introduce the key content presenters, and after I've finished a brief introduction, you will hear from Ian Atkinson, who's our business manager for Multihead Weighers. You will hear from Ross Townsend, who's our business manager for Advanced Services, and you'll hear from Kieran Murphy, who's our business manager for Quality Control Products. By the way, my name's Steve Jones, and I'm the Marketing Director of Ashida Europe. So quickly, as an introduction to Ashida, Ashida is a family-owned company that was formed in 1893 in Japan. So this is our 126th year anniversary. And being family-owned, our president is the fifth generation Mr. Ashida, and Takahida Ashida took over from his father in May 2010. And as you can see on the slide, there's the various generations of the Ashida family, and underneath that there's some evolution of the product portfolio. Clearly, that's not all of our product portfolio, but it kind of depicts the journey that we've been on. And at the very bottom, you can see the difference between the initial Japanese office in Kyoto and on the right-hand side, the current facility. Perhaps one of the key moments in the Ashida history occurred in the early 1970s when Ashida introduced the world's first commercial multi-head weigher for a green pepper application in Japan. And following that key event, we've actually sold in excess of 56,000 multi-head weighers from that time. Moving on, and perhaps considering our presence in Europe, Ashida Europe was actually formed in 1985 as a hub for the Ashida business in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. We also have progressed into manufacture, and since 1995, about 60% of the machines sold by Ashida Europe within the EMEA region are actually manufactured in Birmingham in the UK. And just to try and show the size of the organization, in March 2019, we actually had 612 staff across the EMEA region. So, having provided a very quick overview of the company, let's start to talk about the key themes of today. And obviously in the confectionery sector, the confectionery sector now is highly industrialized, and there are demands for higher speeds, higher efficiencies, and higher accuracies. And my colleagues will talk about a variety of concepts around that as we move forward. And clearly, all of those involved want to make sure that their giveaway is reduced. They're extracting the maximum product throughput from any factory footprint, ensuring their plants are providing weight compliance, and key is food safety as we move forward, so we need to ensure there's no contamination actually within the finished product. So having given that introduction, what I'd like to do now is pass over to my colleague, Mr. Ian Atkinson, who will talk specifically about multi-head weigher applications within the confectionery industry.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ian Atkinson, and I'm Business Manager for Multihead Weighers here at Ashida. What this means in the Ashida language is I live and breathe the multi-head weighing applications, the customer challenges that you face, and of course the solutions that we devise for you. So during my section, I'm going to talk to you about industrial weighing in some of the more challenging confectionery applications. It's only a short slot, so I would welcome you to engage with us after the event if we want to go into more specifics, especially around your challenges. Now, as Steve said, we developed the first multi-head weigher back in the early 1970s, but since then, of course, we've continuously invested in our designs and technology. And while we've expanded our range to over 500 models now, always increasing speeds and giving you more configurations for more different challenges, the one thing we've never lost focus on is our accuracy. And that brings us on to our theme for today, which is high productivity without compromising. So we deal with many different applications in our company across the world. We deal with fresh, frozen, and dry sectors across Ashida, and all of the challenges and the product characteristics across these actually can be seen in confectionery. So one of the wonderful things about your sector is you've got just about every challenge that we face. As you can see with the images in front of you, there's an example of sugared confectionery, certainly something we're going to come on to as one of the challenges. Sugar is a challenge with abrasion, with sugar potentially getting into seal, and it's certainly something that we need to manage together. You've got examples of tangling products there. You've got examples of fragile chocolate-coated products. So the chocolate coating also can be an issue when ambient temperatures change. That will change the flow characteristics, of course. You've got free-flowing confectionery. You've got oiled, sticky jelly confectionery, which can be also clumpy as it arrives at the top of the machine. You've got even products in bag. So we may provide you a solution with accurate combination weighing, with small micro packs going into packs, and then that's transferred around to another weigher which actually weighs those mini packs into a bag. So effectively becoming its own product in its own right. You've got the example of the chocolate balls. They're very, very free-flowing. The challenge there is actually to slow them down so you can control them. Then you've got the example of the coloured wrapped candies, which perhaps could be an example of mixed weighing, where you may want to mix guaranteed percentages of colours within the consumer's pack. You've also got examples of wrapped candies. That may be an example, for example, of low piece counts or even single piece counts, guaranteed single piece counts, which is another solution we can provide. Then you've got an example of hard boiled sweets, which, if you're running at high speed, can also be extremely noisy in the operating and production environment. So not only do we have to focus on high performance, high accuracy, but also we need to think about your environment. So we need to think about a much broader range of things other than just speed and accuracy. Now, in order to ensure that we can tune our industrial weighing solution to exactly match your needs, we need to spend time to really understand your business. As our host said, Steve, you can't target high speeds at all costs, especially for challenging application mixes. So what we need to do, all of our Ashida sales consultants, engineers, is to actually spend a huge amount of time with you up front before just arriving and trying to give you a quote. We won't arrive with a quote. We won't arrive just trying to compete on price. We will actually want to deeply understand your business. So, for example, we've already touched on product characteristics, but I think it's also worth mentioning there, we actually need to understand not just what the products are like in pack, in the supermarket environment, but also exactly how they arrive at the top of the industrial weigher in your exact production condition. What are the different target weights and speeds? More specifically, we need to understand exactly the speed requirement you need for each target weight of that product. So not just a generic speed. We really want to understand it deeply. And of course, within that range, we also want to understand what's the highest percentage of your production so that we can also have a level of prioritization in devising our solution. Of course, it's very rare you're only doing one product. The likelihood is you'll be doing many, many products on your industrial weighers, whether you're a small, medium or large manufacturer, or of course, a contract packer for the large supermarket chains. Again, based on the multiple products, we'd want to understand with you what's the highest percentage of production so that we can prioritize. Also, of course, what are your future plans in years to come? Because we'll expect with an Ishida that you should be running that machine for at least 15 plus years. What are the product mixes? We need detailed lists from you. So not just a selection of 4 or 5. We really need to get into the detail and again work with you on prioritization. Are there any major product conflicts? So for example, if you have very fragile products, we'll need to have a gentle control and transition of those products, typically with more lower angled shoots and contact parts. Of course, if it's very sticky, like the oil jelly products, we're most likely going to be looking at much steeper angled parts. And a number of these we can provide solutions for by just having change parts, but in some cases we may find that they're actually they're mutually exclusive. But we'll discuss those with you and work out the priorities with you. Of course, factory layout. What's the factory footprint? Are there any height restrictions, either in the stack-up height of the infeed, the weigher, the bag maker, or any other downstream equipment? What's the access like to get our equipment to the particular site you want to produce in? Downstream equipment, are we going to be weighing into single tube bag makers, twin tube vertical bag makers, horizontal systems, or for example indexing tins or boxes or trays? And of course, we do need to be aware what is your budget that you're working on. Whether you're a small, medium, or large manufacturer, we need to find something that suits your capex approval. But at the same time, we will also want to discuss with you where do you want to be in terms of payback and cost of ownership. Is it a short contract or is it a long-term production plan that you have? Now, what I'd like to do is move on to the confectionery weighing challenges. So I've got a selection of really high-end challenges. I'd like to share these high-performance examples with you. So the first one I'd like to look at is how do you solve really high-speed weighing, accurate weighing into a single tube vertical bag maker with up to 180, perhaps even plus weighs per minute. We would typically have two options that we would typically consider with you. The first option is to actually split a machine, split it into effectively 2 combination weighers feeding each side of a high-speed Ishida single twin timing hopper. Now this could be a mid-range machine because we're actually spreading the combination weights across each side of the weigher. So what we would do is each side would make a combination very accurately, drop that charge of product into one side of the single twin timing hopper, slightly out of phase with the other side. So there's a very, very short drop distance and drop time between each transition into each side of that high-speed single twin timing hopper. With this configuration, you could have up to 200 weighs per minute going into a very high-speed vertical bag maker below. The alternative, particularly if you have, for example, more compact factory spaces, is to actually have one of our more premium top-of-the-range machine solutions running at very, very high speeds, a 14-head machine, making combinations from those 14 heads, typically dropping from 4 weigh hoppers, straight into a high-speed chute and down through an Ishida Iris timing hopper, which opens very, very quickly. And this can run up to 180 weighs per minute. And we supply both of these solutions into what we would describe really high-end, high-speed single-tube applications. So another challenge is to look at, well, how can you provide a solution for very high speed into twin-tube vertical bag makers? In this case, up to 400 weighs per minute, again, without compromising on weighing accuracy. Our solution would be to provide a 28-head machine split into 4 sections. Now, this machine, because it's split into different sections, would also have booster hoppers to aid in providing you with the maximum number of combinations, so not compromising on accuracy. As the yellow circle in the image depicts, that actually shows you would have a single product feeding into the top of the machine, and you would then have 4 outlets. 2 of the outlets would be dedicated to one high-speed single twin timing hopper, and the other 2 dedicated to another. Now we focus not only on the number of heads and general configuration, but we also focus on the exact science of the flow of the product. So we consider how can we optimize the flight of that product. So in fact, this configuration is super high speed. It goes from pull hopper, way hopper, booster hopper, single opening, and we direct the product down a high-speed chute so it barely touches the side. There's no swirling, no bounce, and it's transferred in the optimum style and shape. As you can see, this then delivers up to 100 weighs per minute per section, going into each side of the high-speed single twin timing hopper, delivering you up to 200 weighs per minute per tube. And we have got successful installations delivering product accurately weighed at these very, very high speeds. So how do we weigh at high speeds without breaking fragile products? Another one of the challenges and paradoxes that we have to face. So very fragile confectionery products, we actually need to still give you a productive throughput, but avoid that product breakage so that your consumers open that pack and they can recognize that product and not just end up with broken pieces. What we do is we consider every transition point through the weigher. And it starts right at the top. We have a low drop height, specially designed low height inlet chute, dropping onto a dispersion table at the top there, which is actually coated in urethane coating, which provides a cushioning benefit to avoid breakage of that first transition. That then vibrates in a controlled fashion product onto individual radial feeders, which also are cleverly shaped to actually minimize breakage. They also have liners on there, and then a waterfall end which gently trickles that product into the pull hopper. We can offer this either in our entry or mid-range level, but in our premium range we also offer special curved hoppers which specifically control the deacceleration of the product as it transitions into each hopper. Those double opening curved hoppers then transfer from the pull hopper, the weigh hopper, down into a very shallow discharge chute, again which is lined. We then have a system called a ring shutter, which momentarily dips down and stops the product before it can potentially collide into other product that's been selected in the combination on the other side of the chute. It then immediately lifts again, and the product trickles down either into the timing hopper or directly into the packaging system below. The result is this gives you high speeds, but with perfectly presented products for high-end customers. So how do we overcome the mixing challenge, now a common theme and a common requirement in confectionery? We can offer you mixes of 2 mix right up to 8 mix with very, very accurate guaranteed percentages per section. Now when mixing, each section is working as an independent weigher. So you have to have the number of heads available and the configuration and design available for each of the product characteristic in each of those sections. Our focus is always to deliver the best combination weighing, and so we can actually have many different section splits across our mid-range or our premium range solutions. As we have 500 models available, we can also select and match and specifically tune to your different requirements and your application needs. Here's an example of a 2-mix machine split evenly based on products with similar characteristics. We could then have a 3-mix, and in this case, section 1 has more heads than section 2 and 3. So that, for example, may be applied to a more challenging product where it's more difficult to make quick combinations. Here's another 3-mix where you may have 3 similar characteristics of the product. And so this then allows for that combination and an equal distribution. 4-mix, 5 mix, again with different head splits. This is just to show you an example. 6 mix, and then moving all the way up to 8 mix with our 32 head. Typically, we would say a minimum number of heads per section is 4 heads per section, again with booster hopper to enable you to make the required number of combinations. Now, last but not least, I wanted to highlight something that's particularly in vogue in the confectionery industry, and something we've seen a lot in recent years, and this is the sugar challenge, something we've been very much working on for the last 12 months. Now, sugared product is a challenge. It's abrasive. As the product is transferred, it's energized, and that loosens the sugar from the product, and it then is then traveling down through the machine. Excess sugar around the product then risks contaminating the packaging seal, so not good. Pinholes in the seal, air leakage, and of course potentially spoiling of the product. Now, sheeters have been added to our sugar extraction solutions, and we have an all-new on-machine extraction design, which greatly reduces sugar removal before being weighed. We've been busy over the last 12 months testing this, and we're delighted with the results. All I wanted to do today, though, is just highlight this is now in existence, and we will be launching this to the open market in the very near future. So if you have weighing applications of sugared product, we look forward to talking to you and discussing our solution, which is actually also very competitive and cost effective in the market. So apologies, I've just gone back a slide. So just to close, from a weighing perspective, I just wanted to emphasize again that our focus is always on delivering maximum accuracy and yields, but as well as productivity. So we never lose focus of the need to provide combination weighing, which is our true speciality. We don't get into dosing. We're the world's specialists in combination weighing. Dosing for us is actually a compromise. So the things we've just discussed are really just a few, and certainly we do want to get into more specifics with you, so please do contact us. Our broad range of approximately 500 different multi-head variants can be adapted further to tune our solution for you. So 500 models, up to 150 different options per model. So again, no compromise. Our quoted speeds are only based on the sheeter accurate combination weighing. And again, I just wanted to emphasize, we don't quote dosing speeds. So please do be careful when reviewing quotes and comparing speeds. You really must look at combination weights only. We ensure you receive rapid payback and years of low-cost operations with the highest possible yields. Challenge us as the market leader in your production challenge. We'd love to listen to you, and we'd love to combine our knowledge with yours. And we look forward to having more contact with you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd now like just to hand on to my colleague, Mr. Kieran Murphy, who's going to talk to you about our quality control solutions.
So thank you, Ian, for the overview on the weighing challenges in the confectionery arena. I would just like to remind everybody, we are taking questions throughout the actual webinar itself, so please do submit your questions, and we'll try to take as many of them as possible at the end of the presentation. Just on the elements, I've got a very short section, and what I will cover, or try to cover, is why, as a confectionery producer, you might be interested in investing in quality inspection control. I'll talk about two main topics after that. I'll talk about foreign body detection, the unique challenges within the sector associated with foreign body detection. I'll talk about some of the technology options, and the main foreign body detection techniques. I'll compare metal detectors and X-ray technology. And then I'll move on to how you go about actually verifying product weights within the confectionery sector. Again, I'll talk about some of the unique challenges, some of the technology options available, and when it comes to verification of weighing, what options are available and what you should be considering in that particular sector. So first up, what I'll actually consider is As a confectionery producer, why would I be interested in investing in actually quality inspection control equipment? Well, one of the foremost, or probably front and center, is brand protection. So brand is very important in differentiating yourself in the market. And it can also be damaged very rapidly. If we go back, say, 15, 20 years, if there was a particular quality issue with a customer, you might end up with a customer complaint coming back, and it might influence the friends and colleagues of that particular individual not to purchase your brand going forward. Nowadays, with the rise of social media, any particular quality issue with a brand can be spread very, very quickly through social media. So it's very easy to kind of damage brands in the market when you have a quality issue. Also, a very hot topic at the moment is food safety, and that could be to do with kind of allergens, or it could be to do with hard physical contaminants coming into the products themselves. So another important reason why you would invest in quality inspection control. The other benefits are largely on the kind of financial side. So from a confectionery producer or in the food sector in general, product recalls, if they're required, can be extremely expensive. So it might not be actually just the recalling of a batch that you need to rework. There could be also fines involved. So it's also kind of very costly activity, and that's why it gives financial benefits to have some quality inspection control techniques. On the business growth potential side, you're probably doing your own brand activity, and that's to go with the top line of protecting that brand, but also retailers do their brands as well. And typically what they look for is producers to actually bid for that business. And if you have a good quality inspection control regime, then you have a good potential for actually winning that business with that retailer. And then the final element as to why you might be interested in investing is all to do with auditing and compliance. And this can be through something like the BRC global standards, or it could be through the retailers. But if you have a good quality inspection control regime, then it allows you to kind of be very compliant with any auditing that might take place in your facility. So let's actually look at foreign body detection. And first up, I suppose, from a confectionery sector, we need to look at some of the challenges that you might have in the confectionery arena. And most notable, and I think it was highlighted by Ian in the weighing side as well, is you do deal with a wide range of products, which can be complex products in nature. So different materials, particularly you can have kind of nuts and chocolates, which can cause certain problems for certain foreign body detection techniques. On the application side, you've got anything from kind of low to high speeds. And when it gets to the higher speeds, that can cause issues in actually rejecting products. And that needs to be considered a bit of a challenge as well. The products themselves can also be small products, and they can also be lightweight. And when you're talking about some of the technologies that might be used, say X-ray technology, it typically comes with tungsten curtains. Low-weight products can be a bit of a challenge to get through tungsten curtains. You also might want to consider in your regime product quality issues. So you might want to look at whether your products are damaged or whether they're missing items. So missing items might be whether it be a box of chocolates, or it might be something to do with a gift in a chocolate egg. So you might actually want to consider that as part of your regime. And then the final activity that is a bit of a challenge in the sector is the packaging which is used. So classically, a lot of metal foil is used, and that gives a nice freshness, and it's a nice consumer interaction, but it can cause real problems if you're trying to use something like metal detectors for actually doing your foreign body detection. So having said all that, what are some of the techniques which are available to you to actually look at foreign body detection? And if we start at the top right, what you can see there is manual visual inspection, which is still very common in the production arena. It can identify a wide range of foreign bodies. The slight downside to it is there is a labor cost associated with it, and you're relying on the awareness of the actual operator. So as soon as they start to lose awareness, then it can drop off, and suddenly you can get foreign bodies coming out in the final product. If you look at the top left, that's an example of a sieving technique. It can capture foreign bodies based on size. The challenge with that one, or the downside, is the sieves can actually break down, so you can end up with foreign bodies larger than you would like actually getting out into the marketplace. If you look at the bottom left, you've got an example of magnetic separation. That removes ferrous metals, but it can only work with ferrous metals. In the center on the bottom, what we've got is an example of a laser camera sorting technique. It can detect a wide range of different foreign bodies. It can also deal with defects in products as well. The challenge with that one is it only does surface inspection. And then probably we come to the most popular two techniques used in the confectionery arena. So on the bottom right, what you've got is metal detectors, which can detect ferrous and non-ferrous metals. But that really is the limitation or downside of them, in that they cannot detect anything which is non-metal. An increasingly popular technique, if you go to the kind of center right, is X-ray technology. And this is starting to be used because it can detect more than metal. On the slight downside of it, it is higher initial and probably ongoing costs associated with it. So having said that the metal detectors and X-ray technology are probably two of the most popular in the confectionery arena, it'd be nice to actually just look in a bit more detail at the benefits, weaknesses of the two different technologies as to why you might consider them in the confectionery sector. So on the metal detector side, benefits is, I have highlighted this, it's a cost-effective solution for foreign body contamination. It's also a simple technology, so it's relatively easy to install, and it's easy for your operators to get up to speed on. It typically also offers compact solutions in the market, so they're kind of the benefits that you can get on metal detectors. On the weakness side, it can only detect metal contaminants. You've also got to be aware, for metal detectors, it can be prone to environmental factors. So when I say environmental factors, any kind of vibration can impact on your metal detector. You also need to consider metal-free zones around your metal detector, and any moisture in the actual product can also cause issues around sensitivity as well. And the other challenge with metal detectors is the packaging. So if you use metal foil, metal detectors is not really a suitable technique for your particular confectionery products. If you look at X-ray technology, it can detect a wide range of foreign bodies, so it can go beyond metal. In effect, the rule of thumb that we use is typically anything with a density greater than water, which is 1 gram per centimeter cubed, then X-ray technology can pick up. It can also deal with a wide range of different packaging types, so it can deal with metal foils as well. And it can offer functionality beyond just foreign body detection, so it can pick up kind of product defects, missing items, and it can also assist with a bit of weight estimation. On the weaknesses side, it does tend to be more expensive. Now, over the last 10 years, X-ray technology has come down quite a lot in price, but it's still probably about 3 to 5 times your initial expenditure on a metal detector. It does require a higher level of training, and it cannot detect low-density contaminants. And when I'm talking about low-density contaminants, it's anything that kind of floats on water. So if you're talking about kind of insects, hair, low-density plastics like polyethylene, that's not feasible with X-ray technology. So that's kind of a quick overview of looking at foreign body detection within the confectionery arena. What I'd now like to move on to is actually talking about verifying product weights. So apologies there, we seem to have a slide that just popped up slightly out of sequence. So if I actually go through verifying product weights, and the first thing I'd like to talk about is some of the challenges which we have in the sector. So from a kind of a weighing perspective, high speed is a real challenge. So when you start to get up to kind of 200 packs per minute or beyond, then that becomes a bit of a challenge. You also need to consider kind of, you typically have small products with low weights requiring high accuracies, which places a certain kind of criteria on the load cell technology and what weighing technique you might use. You also need to consider the transfer between conveyors. So a classic dynamic check weigher system would have an in-feed, would have a weigh cell, and would also have a reject mechanism. And really probably the transference between the in-feed and the weigh cell is the real one that causes issues, and you need to be concerned about as to the size of your product and that you achieve accurate weights. I mentioned rejection size. So when it comes to high speeds, you need to consider suitable rejects that can deal with those high speeds. You might also want to consider fragile products. So probably fragile products are not something that you might want to reject with a pusher mechanism or a heavy-duty air blast. You might want to consider different reject mechanisms. Also in weighing, you want to consider where in the line you're actually going to check that weight. Classically, a lot of the activity is at the end of line on the individual products, but you might also want to consider whether you're doing boxed or carton products, which places different requirements, different weight requirements on the actual check weighers. And then the final consideration or challenges is complying with weight regulations, and typically it's kind of e-marking compliance that you're interested in. Okay, looking at the options available to me as a confectionery producer for weighing products in the market, probably the most simplest activity is a static scales, and a lot of people still use this as a weighing technology. It is very low cost, but it is labor intensive, and the way you have to do it is by statistical sampling techniques. So depending on the speeds at which you're operating at, you would have to take products off the line, maybe every hour, maybe every half hour, to check your weight performance on your particular production lines. Less common, I must admit, in the confectionery arena. More common is to use dynamic scales, and there's two different kind of load cells which are classically found in dynamic scales. One is a strain gauge technology, which has a schematic on the top right there. And the basic principle of it is it works under a Wheatstone bridge arrangement, which is kind of 4 resistors in perfect balance, which have a voltmeter with no voltage going down the actual voltmeter in the center. If you get a bit of weight going on to the actual Wheatstone bridge, one of those strain gauges, the resistance changes, and that creates an imbalance in the Wheatstone bridge, and that creates a voltage going through the voltmeter. That voltage is directly related to the weight on the weigh cell. And that's the basic principle of a strain gauge system. What's nice about it is it deals with high accuracies, speeds, it's relatively low cost, and it is extremely robust. Another technology which is used in dynamic check weighers is force balance technology. And a schematic of that is shown on the bottom right. In effect, what you've got is a cantilever mechanism with a photosensor on the end of it. If you put a weight on one end, the photosensor goes out of alignment. And to bring that photosensor back into alignment is you need to apply a current to the electromagnetic coil shown there, and that current is directly related to the actual weight of the product. What that offers over the strain gauge technology is typically you can deal with higher speeds, you can deal with higher accuracies. On the downside of it, it tends to be a lot more expensive and certainly has a higher cost of ownership. So if something does go wrong with the load cell, then it is more expensive to replace. So having covered some of the challenges in weighing, some of the techniques that you can use for actually weighing your products, I'd now like to cover kind of standardization, regulations in the marketplace around confectionery products. Everything to do with product weighing is overseen by well-met compliance. So all the kind of standards that are in the static weighing and dynamic arena is overseen by well-met compliance in the European Union. Sitting below that in the EU, certainly non-UK, they operate under a principle called MID, Measurement Instruments Directive, on their dynamic check weighers, while the UK has actually opted out of MID and operates under weights and measures. What does that mean to me as a confectionery producer? So, if I'm operating a dynamic check weighers with MID compliance, say I'm in the Netherlands, I'm in France, I'm in Germany, what I need to do to be MID compliant is I need to get a machine which has been type approved. Now, the dynamic check weighers will be type approved by the manufacturer, but that's actually done by an independent body. So it will be type approved by the likes of NMO in the UK, NMI in the Netherlands, or it could be PTB in Germany. And what that determines on the check weighers is the weight bands and the maximum speeds that I can operate at. When that dynamic check weighers is installed at site, what happens is the check weighers performance is verified and it's sealed at installation. So that means that the load cell can't be changed, swapped out. It means that the software can't be changed as well without breaking that seal. And you can use, once you've got a type-approved machine, it's been sealed at site, you can use that dynamic checkware for e-marking weight regulations. It's slightly different in the UK in that the machines do not need to be type-approved, so they don't have any defined weight bands or speeds that they're operating at. What happens when the machine is actually installed is it is verified at site, so the weight performance and the speed performance is checked at site. And then, in effect, to comply with something like e-marking requirements, what you would need to do is you need to do sample weighing on a static weighing scale every so often. So you could check your general production using the dynamic checkware, but you would need to do sampling using a static weigher to actually be compliant in the marketplace. And that gives you a very quick overview of some of the challenges, some of the regulations, and some of the techniques that can be used on checkwares. And now I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Ross Townsend, who's going to go through the data capture part of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. Welcome to the Advanced Data Services section of our productivity webinar this morning. I'd just firstly like to take the opportunity again to remind any of the attendees who have joined us a little bit later on that we do have the opportunity for Q&A, so please submit any questions that you have in the box that's on your screen. We'll aim to review those and come back to you at the end of the session today. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Ross Townsend. I'm the Business Manager for Advanced Services and Data here at Ashida Europe. And today I'm in a very brief session. I'm going to focus on two key considerations for confectionery manufacturers with respect to capturing and utilising your own machine and production data. And first, as you can see on the screen there, the first point really to cover is how you might start to create value from data. This could be through providing additional visibility of what's happening in your production environment, supporting compliance, as Kieran's mentioned previously, potentially increasing your uptime or your OEE. And the second point I'll look to cover today is just how you start that journey around data capture and how you start to get that to add value for you. And this can be issues around the connectivity and the security of data, but also how you start to scale and engage with data capture itself as well. So firstly, moving on to providing visibility. For many manufacturing operations, and in particular high-speed food production environments such as confectionery, an immediate benefit of data capture can be to improve your visibility. This could be in terms of showing machine performance, both live, on the fly, or allowing you to immediately react to opportunities for improvement, or also looking at historical information, either through the previous days, weeks, months, or even years, to start to benchmark your equipment and to optimize the performance of that equipment for you. Secondly, you can also provide remote access to automated reporting via web-based dashboards. And this frees up a lot of time for your operators and your management teams to focus on other essential activities that you have around manufacturing environments, as well as ensuring the integrity of that data. And this can help you to avoid human error, which is often a challenge when capturing data and relying on that to make important decisions for your production environment. As raised by Kieran previously, meeting compliance and auditing is essential in today's environment to make sure that you can prove to your end user and your retailers that you are adhering to the policies that they've put into place. This could be legal or contractual binding kind of agreements. But by capturing individual pack information and providing paperless reporting, this can be achieved locally by using systems such as the IDCS system from Ashida, which can provide you with individual pack data captured on one of our checkweighers. And this can help, again, to ensure that integrity in you meeting the compliance obligations and protect your brand ultimately in the event of any product recall that you might have to face. Moving on, increasing your uptime, as I mentioned earlier, is a key benefit, as well as supporting your manufacturing operations with rapid and accurate production and compliance information. Capturing the performance data at the individual machine level and across the whole production line itself can offer further significant benefits. Machine uptime is a fantastic benefit that you can gain here from capturing that data. And this can give you either immediate insight on the shop floor for self-improvement, using your own on-site maintenance teams to take prompts from the software, or by accessing 24/7 remote export support from the OEM. This can be done from Ashida with our Sentinel system, which provides remote analytics on the machine and allows us to support in a very rapid period of time. Both approaches can dramatically reduce your mean time to repair and the associated cost of ownership by minimising or even eliminating that unplanned downtime. I mentioned earlier on as well, increasing your OEE. The high-speed nature of confectionery sectors, increased pressure on material cost, ensures OEE is as important a metric now as it has ever been. And capturing live OEE data offers that immediate insight. And in addition, the latest Ishida developments involve analytics on that data, which mean that we can start to provide real-time guidance to your operators, ensuring they can take immediate action for that improvement of performance. Kieran also mentioned earlier on about competitive advantage when it comes to bidding for contracts. The high-speed continuous production environment, as we've already mentioned, data capture can be incredibly important to start to allow you to optimise on the fly and make sure that you're as keen as you can possibly be with your production. So reducing the cost of ownership, which in turn can support bidding for new contracts by making sure you have a nice lean production facility, can be a significant benefit. But also that product confidence, again mentioned by Kieran previously, when demonstrating the capabilities to any potential customer when you're talking about bidding for new contracts, can be significantly enhanced by having access to this data, supporting those discussions very, 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 very keenly as well. Now, the final point I'd like to discuss today is really starting to look at the connectivity and security issues that you have with your. Sorry, I have a slight challenge with my screen. If one of my colleagues can push that slide forward for me. Or I'll continue with the content. Connectivity and security is particularly important when it comes to data capture. Across many sectors, manufacturers are looking to utilise and capture that data and move towards becoming a smart factory. Now, we know that the challenges around this are very much around getting that machine connectivity, particularly with legacy equipment as well as with new, but also ensuring the security for the business and most importantly, the consumer as well. Now, in our experience, these challenges are best met by following a common and approved approach to ensure that you've got long-term integrity of your systems. And again, going back to the earlier point, being able to prove that you have that kind of level of integrity in your production environment as well. A key method that we employ for this is that we adhere to industrial standards such as the IEC 62443, which is an industrial automation and control standard, particularly looking at cybersecurity and data risk. Now, by following this standard, we can ensure our own systems monitor user access, how secure that system can be, whether it's password protected, ensuring the data is stored appropriately and ensure that it's clear who owns that data, but also making sure any transmission of information is fully encrypted at all times. The final point I wanted to touch on today as well was scale and engagement. Engaging with data capture either at a local level on your plant floor or remotely is often seen as prohibitive for our customers, either by the level of investment and the upfront cost that might be needed, but also the scale that they might need to take on with that. And we've adopted an approach where we've made our remote monitoring software a core part of our new machinery. So this is something that comes with our equipment to add the value there, but also you can do this on a machine-by-machine basis. It's not something that a customer has to take on as a shop floor whole plant investment. We see that a phased investment program is very supportive of our customers as they look to embark on this kind of journey. As Ian mentioned earlier on, we're very, very keen to hear from you, any of your challenges, so please reach out to us. I and the whole team are more than happy to engage with you, and we've enjoyed doing so. I'm just going to hand you back across to Steve now just to conclude the session.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your attendance this morning. And what we'd like to do is, or I'd like to ask some of the panelists today some of the questions and some of the themes that have been submitted by those taking part. And firstly, if we go back to the weighing, the multi-head content, there are questions, Ian, about handling sticky products and also questions about the applicability of multi-head weighing to specific confectionery products like jelly snakes, which perhaps may not have the ideal product dimensions. So if you could enlarge upon that, please.
Okay, if we sort of split those into two individual questions. Certainly, sticky products, yes, they, at the beginning of the launch of Multihead Weighers, were a real challenge.
So you would think that they would be very difficult to automate, but over time we and other manufacturers have evolved, and certainly we have invested a lot of development in terms of our solutions. So for sticky products, the first thing is you would need you need to consider the very top of the machine. Can you actually vibrate that product and transfer that product so it's equally dispersed across the top of the machine to give you the best combinations possible? So for sticky products for us, we would recommend focusing on our mid-range and our premium range solutions, the RVE and RV, principally because these have much more powerful feeder drives on the top there to transfer that product from the table onto the powerful vibration troughs. So you need really maximum vibration power. And what we also offer on our mid-range and premium range is the ability to tune the frequency individually on each trough, so you can actually arrive close to the resonant frequency and get the maximum power to transfer that sticky product. Of course, there are other things that we would do. We would evaluate the product individually, but we'd be looking to change the material types to embossed, hex embossed, or if it's really sticky, even more embossed, what we call C4. We would look to change the angles, and in some cases we may even look to add coatings if it's particularly very, very sticky. If you add coatings, however, you have to remember that that's a sacrificial addition, so sacrificial coating, and over time that does wear. So you need to ensure that the product isn't abrasive. So if it was a sugar-coated, if you were looking to have sugar-coated abrasive products as well, then you may opt not to have the coatings. The other thing another area of potential sticking is within the hoppers. So we have a number of different designs for hoppers. Some competitors only offer single opening doors or gates on the hoppers. We find that then that's when you can have products sticking on the gate because it's just not transferring that product effectively. For us, we would only recommend double opening pull hoppers, weigh hoppers, perhaps booster hoppers for that very sticky product. And so again, that comes as standard with the mid-range and the premium range as an option. Now, coming to the second part of the question, it was about tangling products like the jellied snakes, which is something we all love to eat. So we've also devised a number of solutions for that. Most of the benefits that I've just talked about would apply. So you'd have the higher power vibration, embossed contact parts, and the options of coatings. But the other thing is we probably have steps in the troughs on the top which help singulate and separate the product. So that certainly helps. The other thing I would say on those type of products is they're very difficult to separate to very low piece counts. So typically you wouldn't be looking to have single jellied snakes in each hopper. That would be very difficult to achieve. So you'd typically be looking at medium size target weights, say 200 grams plus, rather than the smaller micro packs of 10 grams or 15 grams. So I hope that answers your question. They're good questions. Thank you, and please do keep them coming.
Okay, we are in the final throes of the last 6 or 7 minutes, but I want to try and pick up on a number of other quick questions if we can. And going back again to Multihead Weighing, we've got interest in the flexibility of the machines. So can a single machine be used for single mix, 2 mix, and 4 mix? And what's involved in the changeover?
Okay, the answer is yes, but that would immediately raise a few questions to understand, what the levels of priority are for that customer. So typically, if a customer wants to have guaranteed percentages of a mix, then you would need to have an individual section weighing each component so that you get the benefits of combination weighing. So if they want 4 mix, then we would have to provide them with a 4-section combination weigher, typically with booster hoppers, so you get more combinations per section. So yes, we could do that. But my question would be, how often are you doing 4 mix, and how often are you doing 1, 2, and 3 mix? If it's only a very occasional, seasonal, short run on the 4 mix, then you probably don't have to go down the higher investment of configuring a high head 4 mix machine. If it was only a very short seasonal run,
and it's not critical to have guaranteed percentages. You could perhaps consider having a mechanical mixing device upstream and run it through a weigher. So I would want to understand exactly what the level of prioritization is. But fundamentally, yes, you could have a single mix on a even on a full mix machine. You would simply be adding the same ingredient into the infeed of each section. But again, it really is about breaking down that problem, as I covered in my section. We have many questions to ask to understand all of the factors of choice for the customer to ensure that we can tune our solution and not just jump at the chance to get a quote in. So we'd really want to understand it and then tune the solution.
Okay, thanks very much, Ian. And as we're getting close to the end of our session, I've got a couple of quick-fire round questions for our quality control and advanced services representatives. And the first one is to do with enhancing the productivity of the line through information gathered from the IDCS that Ross mentioned, which is connected to a check weigher from Kieran's portfolio. So if anybody could give a quick 30-second summary of what the key benefits would be.
So IDCS has, I think Ross was indicating, a shielded data capture system. Two benefits very quickly to it. On the continent, you need to operate under MID, and what IDCS can offer is paperless compliance. So you don't need to keep paper records for your check weigher. Probably more important across the board is it monitors information at the individual pack level, and what it can be greatly effective on is improving the OEE of your particular production process. And that kind of is a summary snapshot of what we can do.
Okay, thank you. And the final question, and I guess this shows the mix of the participants that we've had at today's session, is to do with machine verification and whether the standards that you've talked about actually extend as far as regions such as Africa.
Yeah, so in Ashida Europe, we're responsible for EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East and Africa. The MID compliance covers the European Union, apart from the UK. Outside of that, everybody is kind of aligned with weights and measures in the UK. So we do cover Africa through kind of the weights and measures activity. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you all of those who have attended today. We really appreciate you giving us your time to attend today's session. I think we need to apologise to some of those who joined late, because I believe there's been some issue in sending out the joining instructions, so we're very sorry about that. But once again, we thank you very much for your time. We hope you found it informative, and any of the other points that have been raised we'll aim to follow up either through email or through the webinar platform. So thank you very much for your time, and that completes today's session. Thank you.